You ever get that feeling like you're just navigating a maze in the dark
Oh, definitely.
and the directions everyone else seems to follow, they aren't working for you anymore.
Yeah.
It feels like, we used to look outside ourselves for the map, for
Yeah.
happiness, success, all of it.
hmm
But there's this growing sense, isn't there, that maybe the real compass is actually within us.
Absolutely. It's like the external world keeps shouting louder and louder, making it harder to hear that still small voice inside.
Exactly.
And that's where a book like Shakti Gawain's Living in the Light really, it still hits home even now.
Right. It was written a while back, but the core idea that we can connect with this incredible creative power inside ourselves
Yeah.
and consciously shape our own reality, it feels so relevant today.
It really
It's
does.
like a shift from feeling like just a passenger in life
Right.
to actually stepping into the driver's seat, guided by our own inner wisdom.
And that's pretty much what we're diving into today. We're exploring some of the key principles from Living in the Light and seeing how they can offer, well, some practical pathways
Pathways through what, specifically?
through the anxieties, the feeling of being overwhelmed, the fear of the unknown that, let's face it, so many of us are feeling.
Hmm.
It's really about unlocking that inner guidance to create a more fulfilling life, drawing straight from Gawain's insights and examples in the book.
Okay, so let's start with something that feels really fundamental, which is intuition.
Yes.
Gawain presents it as this primary way we're guided, which feels almost, I don't know, countercultural in a world that really prizes logic and rational thought above everything.
It really does. And what's interesting is how the book touches on why we might have learned to sideline our intuition.
How so?
Well, Gawain suggests that societal structures, even things like, rigid rule-based systems or approaches that emphasize controlling our instincts, they can inadvertently teach us to distrust those inner nudges. It's like we've been told that the rational mind is the only reliable compass.
Yeah, that gut feeling gets dismissed as just being emotional or illogical. Yeah.
Exactly. But Gawain talks about how we can actually become a creative channel by learning to trust and act on our intuition.
A creative channel. How does she explain that?
She uses this really helpful image of a pipe. Think of a pipe, it needs to be open so energy can flow.
Right.
It has its own structure, which is our unique self, our personality.
Uh-huh.
And the power itself comes from something much bigger than us, the universe, spirit, whatever term resonates.
Okay, I like that visual. The open channel, the structure, the power source.
That's a great way to visualize it. The open channel is our willingness to listen without judgment, right? The structure is our individual way of expressing that energy, and the power source is that universal creative force.
Makes sense.
And here's something fascinating the book points out. When you first start truly listening to your intuition, it can actually, well, stir things up in your life.
Stir things up. Like, how?
You might find yourself outgrowing old situations, maybe relationships naturally shift or fizzle out, or even career paths could suddenly change. It can feel a bit unsettling at first.
It's like shaking the snow globe, right? Everything needs to resettle.
Exactly like that. The book shares a really compelling story about her editor, a woman named Becky.
Oh, yeah.
Becky had this strong, intuitive pull, just this feeling that she needed to move into publishing, even though on paper it seemed like a really risky move at the time.
Why risky?
Well, her husband was skeptical, it didn't look logical, she didn't have a job lined up, but she just felt it so strongly, this inner knowing.
Wow. So what happened?
Despite facing those initial uncertainties, moving without a guaranteed job, Becky held on to that inner knowing. She just trusted it.
Yeah.
And she eventually found her place at New World Library, which, interestingly, is where Gawain published her own work. And Beatty went on to have a very successful career there.
That's a powerful example. It shows how intuition can lead you to unexpected places, places that are ultimately right for you, even when it doesn't make immediate logical sense.
Precisely.
So how do we actually get better at tuning into this intuition? The book talks about this practice of checking in. Sounds simple.
It is, really.
Yeah.
It's about creating small moments throughout your day, maybe just a minute or two to pause, relax a bit, and just notice what your gut is telling you.
Just noticing.
Yeah. Gawain emphasizes that it's rarely some loud, booming voice. More often, it's a subtle feeling, maybe a sense of clarity about something, or perhaps a little unease. It's like learning to read the whispers of your inner wisdom.
It's a quiet knowing.
Yeah.
And the book also mentions that when we start living more in tune with our intuition, we often experience this Surge of energy, this
Yeah.
feeling of being more alive. But
Yes.
that can sometimes feel a bit intense, can't it?
It definitely can. When you open yourself up to that flow, it's natural for energy to increase. And that's why the book really stresses the importance of grounding practices.
Grounding, like what?
Things like spending time in nature, physical exercise, nourishing yourself with healthy food, and just being kind to yourself emotionally, self-nurturing.
Ah, okay.
These things help your physical body, your form, integrate that increased energy in a balanced way so you don't feel totally wired or overwhelmed.
That makes sense.
hmm
Okay, so we're learning to listen inward to our intuition. What's another key insight from living in the light that can help us navigate the world?
Well, the book then introduces this really profound idea that the world around us, our external reality, acts like a mirror.
A mirror.
Yeah, reflecting our inner beliefs, our attitudes, and our underlying emotional patterns.
The world is our mirror. Wow, that's a big concept. Can you unpack that a little?
Sure. Gawain lays it out with a couple of core ideas, really. First, that everything we experience in our lives, the good, the bad, the annoying, the wonderful, it's all, in some way, a reflection of what's going on inside us.
Everything.
In some way, yes. But, and this is crucial, the second point, it's not about blaming ourselves for everything that happens.
Okay, that's good.
No, the key, she emphasizes, is that when we see these reflections, we approach ourselves with compassion, not judgment. It's about learning, about self-awareness, not self-criticism.
So if I'm constantly running into, say, the same kind of challenge in my relationships,
Yeah.
that might be pointing to something within me that needs attention.
Precisely. Our external experiences offer this immediate feedback loop, highlighting aspects of ourselves that might be hidden from our conscious awareness. We might not even realize they're there. The book gives a really relatable example, someone who desires both closeness and independence in their relationships. They experience this constant push and pull externally.
I think I know that feeling.
Right. Gawain suggests this often mirrors an internal conflict between those very same desires within the individual. The outer world is just showing them the inner tension.
That definitely resonates. Okay, but what about the positive things we experience? The people we admire, the things we enjoy, are they mirrors too?
Absolutely. That's the flip side. The book points out that the qualities we appreciate and admire in others, maybe their creativity, their kindness, their courage, are often reflections of qualities that we ourselves possess.
Even if we don't fully recognize them yet.
Exactly, even if they're underdeveloped or we haven't owned them.
Yeah.
And the love and support we receive from others, that can be a reflection of how we're learning to love and accept ourselves.
That's actually a really encouraging way to look at it. It's not just about the difficult stuff.
Not at all. It's
Yeah.
the whole picture.
Hmm.
But the book does also talk about how difficult people or challenging situations can be mirrors, specifically reflecting what she calls disowned parts of ourselves.
Disowned parts.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds a bit harder to swallow.
It can be uncomfortable, for sure, but it's presented as this huge opportunity for growth.
How so?
Gawain uses the example of someone who is constantly giving, maybe over-giving, and finds themselves attracting people who are very needy or demanding. That neediness they encounter externally, she suggests, could actually reflect an unacknowledged part of themselves that also craves attention and support, but maybe isn't expressing it directly, or perhaps feels it's not okay to be needy.
So the external person is acting out something I'm suppressing.
Kind of, yeah. It's about bringing those hidden aspects, those shadow parts, into the light of awareness so we can integrate them.
So by observing what's happening around us, really paying attention, we can gain this incredible insight into our own inner world
Exactly.
without getting stuck in that cycle of just blaming ourselves or others.
Precisely. It's about becoming a curious observer of our own lives and just gently asking, what might this be showing me about myself?
Okay, that's powerful. So we're tuning into our intuition. We're seeing the world as a reflection. What's another key principle from living in the light that you find particularly insightful?
Well, the book then delves into the concept of integrating our spirit and our form.
Spirit and form. Okay, define those terms as the book uses them.
Sure. So spirit in this context can be understood as our essential life force, our core essence, our higher self, that part of us that feels connected to something larger than just our personality.
The deeper part.
Yeah, the deeper part. And form is everything else. Our physical body, our personality, our thoughts, our feelings, our self-concept, everything that makes up our individual human experience in this world.
Yeah.
Gawain even uses herself as an example of form.
So spirit is the essence, and form is how that essence, like, manifests in the physical world.
That's a really helpful way to think about it, yeah. Gawain suggests that when we come into the physical world as babies, we often kind of forget our spiritual nature. We become very identified with our form, our bodies, our roles, our external circumstances.
And that leads to,
Well, it can lead to that feeling of disconnection, that sort of existential angst, the search for meaning outside ourselves because we've lost touch with the meaning within.
we get so caught up in the doing that we forget the being.
Precisely. Beautifully put. But the book talks about this natural cycle of rediscovering our spirit. It often involves periods of introspection, maybe pulling back from the world a bit.
Like needing solitude.
Exactly. However, and this is key, the inward journey isn't meant to be a permanent escape from the world. The ultimate goal, according to Gawain, is to then integrate that spiritual awareness fully into our everyday lives, to bring that inner light, that connection to spirit into our outer experiences, into our form. That's how we help create what she calls the new world.
So how do we actually bridge that gap between spirit and form? What are the steps?
The book highlights a couple of key steps. The first is simply recognizing and feeling both aspects within you. Feeling the awareness of your spirit, maybe that sense of inner peace or connection or timelessness, and also feeling the awareness of your form, your physical sensations, your thoughts swirling, your emotions bubbling up. It's about becoming present to both sides of yourself simultaneously, if possible.
So it's about noticing when I'm operating purely from, say, logic and personality versus when I'm feeling more connected to that deeper, intuitive, spiritual knowing.
Exactly. Just noticing the difference, feeling both realities. And the second step, which follows naturally, is to cultivate love and acceptance for both your spirit and your form.
Accepting both.
Yes, they are both essential, both divine, really.
Yeah.
Your spirit gives you life, connection, purpose. Your form, your body, your mind, your emotions allows you to experience this physical reality, to learn, to grow, to interact.
So don't reject the human part.
Absolutely not. Gawain shares a very personal, very honest example in the book about this. She talks about grappling with a spiritual ideal she held about open relationships
Okay.
and bumping up against the very real, very human feelings of jealousy and the personal need for her for monogamy. It really illustrates how our form, our human emotions and needs, holds its own profound wisdom. We can't just bypass it for some abstract ideal.
That's a really grounding example. Wow.
Right.
It's about not trying to transcend our humanity in a way that denies it, but embracing it as part of the whole spiritual journey.
Absolutely. The book really emphasizes being honest with yourself, honoring where you actually are, and not pushing yourself to be something you're not ready for in this integration process. It's a gentle unfolding.
Makes sense.
And she also includes a specific meditation exercise in the book designed to help you connect with your inner light and foster this connection between spirit and form. A practical tool.
That sounds really helpful. Okay, another area the book touches on is the idea of masculine and feminine energies within us, right?
Yes, that's another major theme. Drawing on concepts like yin and yang from Eastern philosophy and Carl Jung's anima and animus,
Right.
Gawain talks about these universal masculine and feminine principles or energies that exist within everyone, regardless of gender.
So not just about men and women externally.
Not at all. It's about inner qualities. The masculine is often associated with qualities like doing, asserting, focusing, giving out energy. The feminine with being, receiving, nurturing, intuition, allowing flow. She mentions being influenced by Shirley Luthman's work here too.
And the idea is that we need both in balance.
Exactly. The book suggests that imbalances in these inner energies often get reflected in our external relationships and experiences. For example, someone heavily identified with only the traditional macho masculine might attract or be attracted to someone embodying a more passive, dependent feminine, creating a polarized dynamic.
I can see that.
But Gawain talks about the emergence of what she calls the new male energy within both men and women. This is a masculine energy that learns to trust, surrender to, and support the power and wisdom of the inner feminine, the intuition, the feeling side.
So it's about the inner masculine championing the inner feminine.
Precisely. It's an integration. And again, the book offers a practical meditation exercise for this.
What does that involve?
It guides you to contact and actually have an inner dialogue with both your inner male and inner female energies, separately at first, and then together, to understand their perspectives, their needs.
Talking to your inner selves.
Yeah, and there's even a follow-up exercise where the inner female expresses a desire or a feeling, and the new male energy within practices actively listening and supporting that desire, figuring out how to bring it into form.
Wow, that sounds quite deep. A way to foster inner cooperation.
It really is. It's about healing those inner splits and creating wholeness.
Okay, so Reflecting on all of this, the intuition, the mirror, integrating spirit and form, balancing inner energies, what's a practical takeaway for our listeners, something they can maybe try today?
Well, perhaps take a moment later today to identify just one area of your life where you suspect you might be ignoring that gut feeling, that intuitive nudge.
Okay.
Or maybe notice where you're seeing a recurring challenge, a difficult reflection in your external world mirror. And just do that simple checking in practice the book suggests.
Just pausing and noticing.
Yeah. Take a few quiet breaths, relax, and just ask yourself gently, what might my intuition be trying to tell me here? Or what inner feeling or belief might this external situation be reflecting? Just listen for subtle feelings or insights without judgment.
Or maybe consider that spirit form balance.
Or that, yes. How are you balancing your inner sense of connection, your spirit, with the realities and needs of your everyday life, your form? Are you honoring both? Just a little moment of reflection.
That sounds manageable. And maybe we can leave folks with a powerful thought directly from living in the light. How about trust your own inner guidance? It knows the way.
That's perfect. Simple, direct, and core to the message.
And maybe one final thought to mull over.
Yeah.
How might really embracing this inner work, cultivating this connection to your own light, not only transform your personal experience,
Yeah.
but maybe ripple outwards?